Have you ever thought that someone is smarter, kinder, or more successful just because they look attractive? Or maybe you have chosen a product with a prettier design over another identical but simpler one. That is the halo effect, a cognitive bias that makes us judge people and things based on a single positive characteristic, extending that impression to other areas without real evidence. We do it unconsciously, but this bias influences our everyday life, how we evaluate others, education, work, justice, social media, and even how we interact with artificial intelligence. The term halo effect was coined in 1920 by psychologist Edward Thorndike, who observed that military officers tended to evaluate their subordinates globally, influenced by an overall positive or negative impression. If a soldier was considered physically attractive, qualities such as intelligence and leadership were automatically attributed to him, even without evidence. Thorndike described this phenomenon as a halo because, like the light surrounding a figure, one outstanding trait illuminated the perception of all others. Decades later, in 1972, psychologists Diane Burscheid and Walster conducted the famous study, "What is Beautiful is Good." They showed participants photographs of women and asked them to evaluate their personality and other traits. The results were striking. Women considered more attractive were perceived not only as prettier, but also as smarter, more sociable, happier, and more socially successful. A single photograph caused participants to attribute additional virtues they could not verify. 1 year later, Clifford and Walster showed that the halo effect also applies in education. Teachers tend to expect more from attractive students, treat them better, and predict greater success, even when their academic performance is identical to their peers. Beauty influences opportunities from childhood, and this has real-life consequences. The halo effect is not limited to physical beauty. It can arise from the way someone dresses, their voice, initial friendliness, or even a brand's reputation. If a trait stands out and creates a positive impression, we unconsciously extend that perception to other aspects we have not verified. Our brains use this shortcut because life is too complex to analyze everything in detail. One positive characteristic becomes a mental shortcut. If this is good, everything else is probably good too. Today we understand more about how this bias works. First, complexity reduction. Our brain needs to make quick decisions and cannot analyze all data. So a symmetrical face or a pleasant smile becomes a quick indicator of trust or goodness. Second, implicit personality theory. Culturally, we learn to associate beauty with goodness, attractiveness with success, and neatness with responsibility. Movies, advertising, and social media constantly reinforce this learning. Third, cognitive fluency. Attractive faces are usually easier to process visually, and our brain interprets this ease as something positive, generating feelings of familiarity and likability. With the rise of social media and beauty filters, the halo effect has reached new heights. In 2024, Nuria Oliver and her team published, "What is Beautiful is Still Good: The Attractiveness Halo Effect in the Era of Beauty Filters," a study analyzing 462 faces of different ages, genders, and ethnicities. They compared how these faces were perceived before and after applying digital beauty filters. The results were impressive. Not only did perceived attractiveness increase, but ratings of intelligence, sociability, trustworthiness, and happiness also rose significantly. A simple digital filter can dramatically amplify the halo effect in seconds. Moreover, the study revealed the saturation effect. Beyond a certain level of attractiveness, increases in traits like intelligence or trustworthiness plateau, while traits like happiness and sociability continue to rise. Filters benefited women more in perceived attractiveness, but men often received a bigger boost in intelligence, and younger individuals gained more than older ones. This shows that filters interact with stereotypes of gender, age, and appearance, amplifying existing inequalities. The controversial part is that these filters not only reinforce bias, but amplify it. If we already associate beauty with goodness, now comparing real beauty with filtered beauty can affect our perception and self-esteem. Constant exposure to retouched, idealized images can lead to dissatisfaction, anxiety, and depression, especially in teenagers and young adults. The halo effect also affects multimodal artificial intelligence. In a recent study, the Elava model consistently assigned more positive traits to attractive faces in over 80% of scenarios, describing them as more competent, trustworthy, or sociable. Not only humans, but the machines we create reproduce this bias, raising ethical questions about automated decisions in hiring, justice, or healthcare. Everyday examples of the halo effect are abundant. A well-dressed candidate has a higher chance of success in an interview, even if their resume is equal to others. A product with attractive packaging is perceived as more reliable, even if identical to the rest. In simulated trials, attractive defendants receive lighter sentences. On social media, attractive influencers gain more followers and trust, even if their content is not superior. In schools, attractive students receive higher expectations and preferential treatment. This demonstrates how a simple bias can shape opportunities, decisions, and perceptions profoundly. However, the halo effect also perpetuates inequalities. It favors those who fit dominant beauty standards and penalizes those who do not, hiding real talent and reinforcing stereotypes of gender, race, and age. It fuels a marketplace of appearance where authenticity is sacrificed for aesthetics and generates unfair advantages in many areas of life. This raises critical questions. Is it fair that someone receives higher pay, a promotion, or a lighter sentence just for being attractive? Should we accept that appearance determines opportunities, or should we work to reduce its influence? How ethical is it to use beauty as a marketing tool, knowing it manipulates our bias? Can we trust systems of justice, hiring, or algorithms that may be contaminated by this bias? Fortunately, the halo effect can be mitigated. We cannot completely eliminate it, as it is wired into the way we process information, but we can reduce its influence. First, by being aware that we are all susceptible to this bias and that first impressions are not always reliable. Second, by using objective, measurable criteria when evaluating people or products. Third, by removing appearance from the process whenever possible, such as anonymous resumes or blind auditions. Fourth, by training judges, teachers, and employers to recognize and counteract this bias. Fifth, by promoting diversity in media and social platforms, showing different types of beauty, and expanding our understanding of attractiveness. Ultimately, the halo effect confronts us with an uncomfortable truth. We all judge by the cover, one way or another. The question is, will we let that halo decide people's opportunities, justice, and worth? Or will we learn to look beyond the first impression? I invite you to reflect. How many times have you favored someone just because of their appearance? Do you think aesthetic privilege should be discussed like other social privileges? Leave your answer in the comments, share this video, subscribe, and suggest new topics, because here we will continue exploring how our minds shape the world we see.